quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
The medical marijuana. The medical marijuana. Radio show. The medical marijuana for you and me. Ah, yeah, the medical marijuana. Whoa, 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 yeah, the medical. It's the medical marijuana show. And you will know.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Medical Marijuana Radio for Saturday, May 11th, 2013. I'm your host, Larry Love. Before we get started, let's check in with the President of the United States and see if he has anything new to say.
I mean, I remember when BuzzFeed was just something I did in college around 2 a.m. It's true.
Yeah, I guess he hasn't anything more to say except for making fun of us and a serious subject. Anyway, so tonight's guest, Edward Cook, who has a book out. Let's see if you can see this on here. He's got a book on arthritis and marijuana. Edward Cook, he'll be calling in at 20 minutes after the hour, and we will talk with him. If you want to call in, the numbers, the main number is 505-514-0098, and I'll post the other numbers and give them out later. And that'll be at 20 minutes after the hour. Right now, we will read the strain report for you for here in New Mexico. And coming up this week at Canaceutics, Kosher Kush, and I highly recommend that strain. It's really fantastic. Fruit Spirit, Zero Kush, and Bob's OG. Again, that's at Canaceutics. On C.G. Corrigan, this week, they're going to have their indicas are Purple Kush, Pineapple Kush, Mango, Hog, G13, and White Rhino. Their hybrids are Headband and Alaskan Thunderfuck. CBD strain, A Tota Madre and Canatonic. And their sativas at CG Corrigan will be Red Diesel, Cinderella 99, and Super Lemon Haze. Super Lemon Haze, another top favorite of mine. It's actually my go-to right now. That was CG Corrigan. So now on to MedZen. MedZen sent me their strains this week. They will have Bubba Kush, Big Bang, Green Crackle, Lemon Kush, Super Skunk, White Rhino, White Russian, and Willie Frost. Again, that's MedZen. Minerva will have Blue Widow, Harlequin. Harlequin is a high CBD strain, and Blue Widow is a favorite of mine as well. That's blueberry crossed with White Widow. Harvest Blend they will have at Minerva. Master Kush, Northern Lights crossed with Blueberry. Omarita RX, Purple Kush, and Double Dream. That's Minerva. New Mexican. By the way, New Mexican is open Saturdays now, 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So you have a place to go on Saturdays to New Mexican. They will have UBC Chemo, CBD Skunk Haze, AK-47, LA Confidential, CBD Critical Mass, Pressed Keef Hash from G13 Haze, Loose Keef Hash Topper from CBD AK-47 and G13 Haze. They have some Black Temple Hash from Blue Dream, Popcorn Buds AK-47, UBC Chemo, LA Confidential, and Mazar, and CBD Skunk Haze at $32 plus tax and eighth. Something new from them is some BHO Blue Dream and Critical Plus wax at $70 a gram. And they have a special dark wax, $50 a gram. No half grams available while supplies last. It's Blue Dream Critical Plus Captain Z, and Kahuna. That's New Mexican. New Mexico Top Organics this week. We'll have Banana Kush, another favorite of mine. Jack Herer, something that I grew a couple years ago that I like a lot. Whitefire, a great strain, fantastic strain. And White Widow. And that's New Mexico Top Organics. And now we'll play a little news. We'll read a little news for you.
1, 2, 3. I've got news for you.
Okay, so this first one is out of Colorado. You know, we need to stay on top of what's going on up there, and this is just wacky crazy. I'm getting this from the Daily Caller. It says marijuana publications threaten lawsuit over Colorado's new legal pot regulations. A Denver lawyer is threatening the first of what may be many lawsuits to come should Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper sign into law bills dealing with historic legislation of recreational marijuana. But it's coming from an unexpected quarter. Over a portion of the regulatory bill that has gotten almost zero attention compared to the rest of the issues it deals with is how retail stores treat pot magazines. Yes, we're talking about magazines now. According to the bill awaiting Hickenlooper's signature, publications like High Times that feature glossy pictures of cannabis plants are to be dealt with more strictly than pornography, kept behind the counter and away from prying eyes of children. This amounts to a First Amendment violation, according to attorney David Lane, who is representing two marijuana magazines, the Daily Doobie and Hemp Connoisseur. Lane is known for representing controversial and colorful clients, including former University of Colorado professor Ward Churchill. What his clients have in common, in Lane's estimation, is a valid claim that their freedom of speech is being violated. Anyway, so this is I'm not going to read the whole article, but this is just a crazy ruling. It's, you know, I said on my Facebook page, how can Colorado be so progressive and ahead of the time in being the first state to legalize marijuana, and then want to shut down at the same time First Amendment rights and hide magazines behind the counter? That's really quite crazy. Here's a good one out of Michigan. I got this off the Joint blog. This has come up quite often even here in New Mexico. In a ruling that will set precedent across the state, Michigan's Attorney General Bill Shulet says parents who use marijuana for medical purposes aren't inherently disqualified from having custody of their children. This ruling is an important one, as past cases in Michigan and in other medical marijuana states across the nation, parents have lost custody of their children, sometimes simply for being an authorized medical marijuana patient. This is totally crazy. I've known from talking about two people here in New Mexico, that they have had some situations where they needed an attorney, where the family services try to take the kids away from a mother or father that are smoking marijuana for medical reasons, and it's a real problem. So at least a good judge in Michigan stopped that from happening. Let's see. What else do we have here? Marijuana and Alzheimer's, we've talked about it before, and it just, there's more and more information coming out. This is by Lisa Garber, and the website is truththeory.com. It says marijuana and Alzheimer's, how marijuana outperforms drugs for Alzheimer's disease. The war on drugs has most people believing that there's no legitimate argument for marijuana, causing it to be highly looked down upon and illegal under the federal law throughout the United States. But there's an exceptionally large body of research, again, an exceptionally large body of research, pointing to the positive impact of marijuana can have on various health ailments, with recent research revealing a link between marijuana and Alzheimer's, showing that THC, the psychoactive component of marijuana, may be beneficial for Alzheimer's patients. As published in the Journal of Molecular Pharmacology, Skaggs Institute for Chemical Biology Study shows that THC, THC inhibits the enzyme ACHE, as well as prevents ACHE-induced aggregation. In other words, this is written with some real technical words here. In other words, cannabinoid molecules found in cannabis could halt the progression of Alzheimer's disease. Again, cannabinoid molecules found in cannabis could halt the progression of Alzheimer's disease. We've been talking about this, and it's just amazing. So it also says here in this article, many drugs on the market today address symptoms of Alzheimer's by targeting and inhibiting the ACHE enzyme. This leads to decreased levels of ACHE, thereby resulting in reduced symptoms. The problem with many Alzheimer drugs, like Arcept, however, is that they are associated with seizures, among other nasty side effects. But it isn't too surprising that in the same class of chemicals as most insecticides and agents of chemical warfare like nerve gas. So this article, you can read it. Go to truththeory.com, and again, it's called Marijuana and Alzheimer's, How Marijuana Outperforms Drugs for Alzheimer's Disease. Here's a good one. This is from preventdisease.com, and I'll read a little bit of it. It's called So You Really Believe Nature Got It Wrong? Still believe nature got it wrong? Here's the top 10 health benefits of marijuana. And we're going to go down to where they list the top 10 conditions or that people have, cancers and so forth. The number one is cancer, of course. And cannabinoids, the active components in marijuana, inhibit tumor growth in laboratory animals and also kill cancer cells. That's the number one best use for cannabis. And we know from the Rick Simpson oil as well that it kills cancer cells. And hopefully, if you know anybody that has cancer, it would be good to let them read up about the Phoenix Tears. The number two of the top 10 is Tourette's syndrome. Number 3 is seizures. Number 4, migraines. Something we've known about for a really long time, glaucoma. Number 5. Number 6, multiple sclerosis. Number 7, ADD and ADHD. There's a well-documented USC study done about a year ago, shows that marijuana is not only a perfect alternative for Ritalin, but treats the disorder without any of the negative side effects of the pharmaceutical. Again, that's ADD and ADHD. IBS and Crohn's disease. Marijuana has shown that it can help with symptoms of the chronic disease as it stops nausea, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. Again, that's IBS, Crohn's disease, number 8. Number 9, Alzheimer's. Despite what you may have heard about marijuana's effects on the brain, the Scripps Institute in 2006 proved that the THC found in marijuana works to prevent Alzheimer's by blocking the deposits in the brain that cause the disease. And number 10, and last but not least, premenstrual syndrome. Just like marijuana is used to treat IBS, it can be used to treat the cramps and discomfort that causes PMS symptoms. Using marijuana for PMS actually goes all the way back to Queen Victoria. And again, there's a lot more stuff here in this article. It's on preventdisease.com. And in just a few minutes, we'll have Ed Cook call in about arthritis, which is helped and also with marijuana. And of course, it's one of the conditions here in New Mexico that allows you to get into the program. All right, now here's a story coming out of San Jose, it's not a great story. Feds threaten medical pot dispensaries with 40-year sentences. A lawful San Jose dispensary has been ordered to vacate in the latest federal crackdown to challenge the state laws. And this is on Alternet. April 30th, 2013. In the latest act in an ongoing drama pitting federal drug laws against state legislation permitting the sales of marijuana, a U.S. attorney is threatening the landlords housing medical marijuana dispensaries with 40 years in federal prison. After ballot measures legalizing the sale of and possession of recreational use pot passed in Colorado and Washington state, we wondered whether Obama's second term would see the beginning of the end of the federal war on drugs. But as the San Jose crackdown, among others, suggests, the Justice Department will not be backing down in January. In January, South California medical marijuana dispensary operator Aaron Sandusky was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for running a business deemed legal in the state since California legalized marijuana. Let me play that back. Since California legalized marijuana for qualified patients, caregivers, and collectives in 1996 and 2003. Now, as the East Bay Express reported, a new round of actions against lawful medical cannabis dispensaries in the South Bay has begun following crackdowns in 2011. Landlords are receiving threatening letters from U.S. Attorney Melinda Haig, warning of a 40-year prison sentence if landlords do not evict the dispensary tenants. Again, the federal government is threatening people that own buildings that aren't selling themselves, that just leasing to a medical marijuana dispensary. 40 years in federal prison is what they're threatening. In October 2011, Haig and 3 other U.S. attorneys declared war on California's estimated $1.3 billion medical marijuana industry, threatening hundreds of landlords with forfeiture. Hundreds of dispensaries across the state moved or closed. Haig is attempting to seize Harborside Health Center in Oakland, as well as his sister club in San Jose. We're going to stop there. And hello, Ed. Is that you? This is Larry.
Hi, Larry. Yes, it is. How are you?
I'm really great. Let me get some levels on you here. We were just reading some interesting news stories. We had the top 10 conditions that cannabis is good for, and we just read a terrible story about the federal government threatening landlords who rent to tenants of dispensaries. They're threatening the landlords with 40 years in prison if they don't throw the tenants out, the dispensary. So anyway, that was the news, and now we have Mr. Ed R. Cook on the line. He has a book out called Arthritis and Marijuana, and how marijuana, diet, and exercise can heal arthritis. Tell me, give me a little bit of background. Why did you write this book?
Well, I had a career that I worked really hard with my body for many years, and I got a little bit older and really started to ache really bad, and got to the point where I couldn't make a living anymore with my business, and I had to find a way to alleviate my ailments, my pain and whatnot, and I found with use of marijuana and other comprehensive measures, swimming and changing behavior and so forth, modifying some of the work that I did, that I got much better. And in comparison to some of the advice doctors were giving me and the pharmaceutical companies and so forth, I found marijuana to be a much more natural and comprehensive remedy.
And so what made you try marijuana for this particular remedy? Had you been a smoker previously, and then you just figured out that, gee, I'm hurting, and when I smoke, this is helping, or were you turned on to it from some other source?
No, I was a recreational user since my teenage years, and it was never. I was never a heavy user, and there was much time that I abstained, like I was in the Army, and there was times the first years of my marriage and so forth, I abstained and so forth. But I knew of some of the effects, the way it kind of buzzes your body, and the more rational thinking you have. I believe that you can deal with pain a bit more rationally. And I find I knew that I could feel my body a little more intrinsically, and I could work with it a little better. And I found working on my arthritis has helped greatly with the use of marijuana. So I kind of put two and two together with that. I had used it previously, but I incorporated it into my treatment.
So you have a background, I guess, recently in training people. Is that correct?
Yes, well, I became a certified group trainer, and I have, for credibility purposes and so forth, I have gotten certified in exercise and arthritis, and I wanted to learn a bit from all sources, the mainstream as well as the alternative, and so I am certified more for credibility purposes, and I train people. Not so much with the marijuana, with arthritis and so forth, but that's why I wrote the book, to kind of spread the word about it and to help others with it. But I do train. I do a chin-up, push-up class. I do, and I help with a body rolling class that they do and so forth. But I also happen to reside in New York State, which is not a med marijuana state, so I have to be careful of how I step here and whatnot. So,
right.
you know, professionally, I do help people, but I on a world stage, that's one reason why I wrote the book, because it's not illegal in many places in the United States and the world in general.
Right, and I do believe that within a year, I think New York State will have a medical program there. I really feel that way. I've been reading a lot about it. The governor of the state is all for it, and that's half the battle or more. So I think within a year, I think you will be okay. So now, your protocol is to use marijuana, cannabis, along with diet and exercise. So give me your daily routine of how you personally use what's in your diet that also helps Alzheimer's that maybe we don't know about.
Well, it's a common sense diet. I mean, you kind of load up on, you know, your vegetables and fruits and so forth. And obviously with arthritis, it's good to hydrate. You want to drink a lot of water and a lot of, you know, juices and so forth. And even chocolate milk, you know, in moderation, it helps lubricate and so forth. And you don't want to dehydrate. You know, that's part of the diet. A balanced diet is what I like to describe. Now, I also go into detail in the book. There's a colossal industry of supplements, mostly glutamine chondroitin based products and so forth. And there's a lot of hype with that, and it's almost billed as a magic wand and so forth. And I caution people about that. You can supplement your diet with that, but you want to have the balanced diet with you know, plant based, you know, apples and carrots and those kind of potatoes and those kind of foods. But you know, you can take some of the supplements. Just don't depend on them to cure your arthritis. It's part of a comprehensive plan. And you know, the other things, there is no magic silver bullet. Marijuana is a component of arthritis treatment, but you also have to do other things. You have to modify your behavior, like if you've been running marathons and your knees and hips ache, well, you might want to scale back a little bit. Try running on a treadmill or substitute some swimming days for your running days. You have to modify your behavior a little bit. So it's really a comprehensive effort, and I feel way better than I felt even 5 years ago through, you know, changing a few things that I do and modifying my diet. One thing, I think a lot of people, the stereotype about marijuana is you get the munchies and you want to eat, you know, potato chips and stuff. I find that not to be true. I find it to be the opposite. I find myself craving for good foods like apples and
right.
You know,
well,
peppers and so forth.
You're
and things
trained,
like that.
Ed, you're trained that way. There's people, you know, like me who I'm not trained to think about apples and pears and all that stuff. So, you know, you've already trained your body to want that stuff. So I just find that, you know, the munchies.
This is true.
The munchies. Look, are part of the reaction from cannabis, and of course, appetite stimulation helps so many people who need to gain weight.
Absolutely.
That are, wasting away and so forth. But as far as the arthritis is concerned, is the cannabis more of a pain management? I mean, I don't know that there's any evidence that arthritis can be cured. As far as I know, I don't have arthritis, but I am dealing with a 85-year-old mom that does have arthritis. And so what can someone do? I mean, are we talking about, are you recommending tinctures, salves, topically for arthritis? I know that pain can be solved by smoking it, but what are the forms of cannabis that are working for people with arthritis?
Well, I believe in inhaling it or getting it to your central nervous system, delivering it in some fashion. I prefer to inhale. I don't smoke cigarettes, but I like to smoke and inhale the smoke of marijuana. I find it's quick acting, reliable, and very, very dependable and everything. Now, as we all know, you can bake it into foods. You can use vaporizers. There's plenty of ways to deliver it non-smokeless ways. But if you get it to your central nervous system, it has an unquestionable analgesic and psychoactive effect, which contributes to alleviating arthritis. You can't cure arthritis, but you can alleviate it, and you can make things better. There's no question about that through marijuana cannabis use. It has the analgesic and the psychoactive effect, and working with it leads to an antidepressant effect. So that's where I believe that marijuana cannabis contributes to alleviating arthritis.
So is this something that an arthritis patient would use daily, or are there? I don't have arthritis, so I don't know what that's like. I mean, I've seen my mother's hands that are just stiff and just riddled with pain and so forth.
Yeah,
so,
she probably has RA. Yeah.
So
it wouldn't have to be daily. It wouldn't have to be daily. I like to use it optionally, like anything you enjoy. It's good to abstain from it once in a while, just so you appreciate both sides. And when you need it, I like to have it there when I want it, when I need it. But there are times, like when you may have read in the book, I do body rolling and so forth. My body kind of reaches out to me for that. I don't need the marijuana for that all the time. But when I'm aching and I want to feel less crusty and so forth, it's nice to have that option available. So I would say it doesn't have to be daily, which is a big plus, as opposed to like pharmaceutical medicines, which must be kept up in your blood. And a lot of times you have to take it every day for it to be effective. Marijuana, you don't have to do that. I can abstain from marijuana for a week at a time and still have the same effective feeling that I get from it if I use it, days in between and so forth. So in arthritis relief, it doesn't have to be daily. It can be optional, and that's one of the great attributes of this effective herb. It can be optional. It's an effective herb that I really don't see a dependence with it, like you'll get with some of the pharmaceutical analgesics, Vicodin, and some of the things that are causing great social harm these days.
I don't believe that there is a dependence to marijuana. I've been smoking since
I don't see it. No.
1968. So I mean, I'm 45 years of using cannabis, and I've missed a few days in between, but I've never felt any kind of withdrawal symptoms or anything. But back to the arthritis, which arthritis, it sounds like a painful disease. I don't know too many people that have it, but close enough to me is my mom, and of course I know how it can be painful. So can an arthritis person that's suffering from arthritis, do they have sleep problems because it's bones and joints and stuff? Would this be helpful for them to use before they go to bed? Yes,
absolutely. It I would think it becomes a lifestyle where you exercise with it, you use it in your routines to alleviate arthritis, and that contributes to sleeping better at night because you've kind of righted the ship throughout the day, and it's a cyclical thing where you feel good throughout the day, therefore you sleep good at night. And maybe for some people, especially if you used an indica type, more of a strain of marijuana, it may help you with your sleep a little bit better. It may help your body feel better. You had asked about, not just the analgesic and the psychoactive effect. You asked about, as far as like managing pain. There is evidence, the CBD and other active ingredients in marijuana, that it does help reduce inflammation, and that's part of what causes the pain. And so there is clinical evidence that cannabis use will help alleviate pain. Therefore, people will sleep better at night. They don't have to toss and turn and ache and so forth.
So you also have a section in your table of contents here about healthcare and society. So tell us a little bit about that, because there is a stigma attached to marijuana, and I worked in a dispensary for 2 years here, and I had people come in legally with their card that they just got, and maybe they're in their 50s or 60s, and they buying marijuana for the first time to use it medicinally, and there's still a stigma about it. I used to watch people walking out of the dispensary just like still looking over their shoulder and being nervous about even buying it and having it. So tell me a little bit about your chapter, Healthcare and Society. Well,
mostly I'm not a big fan of the health insurance industry. A lot of insurances are good, like auto insurance or life insurance. You don't want to, if you have a family and you get wiped out in a car accident, you don't want to leave your spouse hanging with bills and so forth. Those are good insurance. Health insurance should be blown off the face of the earth. The way it's set up here in the United States, it takes a much too much disproportionate share of the healthcare dollar away from the actual people who do the actual healing. Doctors, nurses, the people who actually get their hands dirty and so forth. You have white-collar insurance people who have nothing to do with healing people, making outrageous amounts of money from other people's health or lack thereof and so forth. And I have a problem with that. And I happen to be a veteran, and I like the way the VA sets up their health care. They bill people on a it is government subsidized, but they bill people on a sliding scale according to your income. It's never exorbitant. People don't go bankrupt. If you need a service, you get it. They don't milk the system like the present private system does in the United States. There's a lot of steerage to unnecessary procedures just so people can cover the costs of doing business. There's a lot of over-medication. There's a lot of misdiagnosis. And you really have to be proactive and somewhat lucky not to see the dark side of the system as it currently sits right now. And one of it advocates strongly for alternative medicine because you're taking matters somewhat in your own hands. You're taking charge of your own health, and with marijuana, it's a green, renewable commodity. It's not something that has to be controlled by the pharmaceutical companies. This is something you can grow out of the ground that is very effective for your health. And, this is why I advocate for this being implemented into the healthcare. So a lot of other countries, they realize that cannabis, marijuana is part of the healthcare. They take care of they use the resources that they have. In the United States here, they kind of steer people to this money churning, milking process of health insurance. I'd really like to see that change.
Yeah, well, obviously over the last few years, the health care system has they've been trying to revamp it, and there's 10 sides to 2 sides, and it's pretty crazy. But maybe eventually it'll work itself out. I do want to remind people, however, though you mentioned you like the veterans' healthcare type system, and that you are a veteran, and in marijuana states, that the legal medical marijuana states, the VA issued a statement a couple of years ago that said that they would not deny veterans benefits if they are using cannabis in a state where it is legal and that they're in a program. So like here in New Mexico,
That is correct.
They can't make the recommendation for PTSD or for any chronic illness that might be a valid medical cannabis program admission condition, but the diagnosis from them can be taken to a private practice physician, and veterans can get into the medical marijuana programs if they qualify under the conditions of that particular state. And also, I want people to know, and you may not know this, that at least here in New Mexico, and I'm not sure about other states, but I've known that people have written off their medical cannabis, at least a certain portion of what they have spent, and gotten either money back on their taxes or obviously balanced out some other deduction or whatever. So I think it's going to be a slow.
That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow change to get reimbursed for this as a medicine and so forth. But I believe that it will happen someday, and of course. 2 years ago, when the Veterans Administration did make that statement that they wouldn't penalize, vets for testing positive for cannabis if they're in a program in a valid state is a major step forward. And of course, the
that is huge.
Yeah.
That you have to give them props for keeping an open mind with that. That is huge.
That's they're the federal government, and the federal government also says that there's no medicinal value, or uses of cannabis medicinally, and that's why it's a Schedule I drug, and let's things have to change on that level. It needs to be changed, whatever it takes to change the scheduling so that Colorado and Washington State that have just legalized so that they can run their industry, so to speak, a little bit easier and not have the feds looking over their shoulder. So things have to change, and of course that would also help the medical marijuana states. I think there's 18 or even 19 now. They just keep coming on board, and pretty soon another 5 or so will have over half the country. But we can't wait 2 or 3 years to change the scheduling. This thing has to happen now, and of course the president likes to make fun of people who smoke marijuana. I don't know if you heard this, but this is the president 2 weeks ago at the correspondence dinner. This is here. Listen to this, Ed.
I remember when BuzzFeed was just something I did in college around 2 a.m. It's true.
Oh, you know what? I don't.
Can't hear it.
Yeah, you can't hear that. I'm sorry. I wanted to play that again. He basically said, BuzzFeed is a media terminology, and so he used it and said that he remembers when BuzzFeed was just waking up at 2 a.m. and eating, getting the munchies and so forth. He was, he makes fun.
Right.
The president's making fun of marijuana, and he knows that there's issues out there, and yet there's people in jail for what he used to do in college.
Yeah.
What he used to do in college. So there's some hypocrisy going on here, and hopefully it will change.
Absolute hypocrisy.
Sooner than later. So what
From
more?
my perspective, you're.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
No, from your perspective.
Well, they're also keeping. They're also harming people's health. That's it's bad enough for putting people in jail and everything, but you're also you're harming human health care by taking away that option. The thing about it's not for everyone, and they're not going to. The pharmaceutical company and the mainstreams are not going to lose their market share. But this is definitely helpful to a lot of people. And to deny that is cruelty, actually, and putting people in jail is cruelty, and that's just wrong. So as you say, we have to keep working at it, and we have to, we need to get it off the Schedule I. We need to start helping people. We need to start alleviating arthritis and all the other musculoskeletal, problems. And, like, why do you have to be dying of AIDS or some other complication to have people have compassion for you so that you can use marijuana?
Right.
I mean, it's just wrong, and, this needs to move forward.
Well, I'm not sure how old you are, but, I was born in 1950, and I went through the 60s, and that's when I first started smoking and so forth. And it really needs to, marijuana needs to be legalized totally like Colorado and Washington. And it really, I mean, you've heard it before, it could just be a big boon to the states and to the economy, and it creates jobs, hemp. Hemp is starting to make a big comeback now. Kentucky just legalized industrial hemp. In Colorado, they're just starting to grow industrial hemp. And this is something that's been held back for 80 years now. And, people's lives could have been a lot better. I think we'd have more trees and more forests, if they weren't cutting down the trees for paper.
Less fossil fuel consumption.
All of that stuff. So, I mean, we've really lost 80 years of progress with the hemp plant and the cannabis plant in general. Who knows how many millions of people who have died from cancer and have suffered from MS and CP that could have been helped and had a less painful life and less painful ending if they were allowed to use cannabis over these last 80 years. I mean, who knows? I believe in the Rick Simpson oil. I've read accounts and I've talked to people, and I do believe that THC and cannabinoids shrink tumors. There are reports out. I think 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, there's an NIH report, National Institute of Health, that came out in March, and it said that cannabis reduces the size of tumors. And then 2 weeks later, that was struck from that particular report, and it was gone. So, I mean, and of course,
I think Harvard came out with a study in 2007, I believe, too, that stated the same thing. I mean, there's multiple studies on this.
It's interesting that the rule of thumb has been there's not enough studies to say that there's any medical uses of cannabis. And then, of course, there is Harvard studies and Scripps studies and UC San Francisco.
What it is, the federal government just chooses not to recognize those studies. They're obstinate to it, and there's been plenty of studies. They just choose to ignore them and dismiss them.
Well,
but there has been plenty of clinical studies.
Here's where the hypocrisy comes in. It's all over the internet. You can find a patent application by the U.S. government on cannabinoids where it states that it is good for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, CP, arthritis, all of this stuff. They name these diseases and conditions in a patent application that the government has on cannabinoids. So, at the same time that they're doing that, they're saying there's no use for it. So this has to stop yesterday. Okay, not tomorrow. It's ridiculous what's going on with the federal government in hiding the value of cannabis, whether it be industrial or the cannabis sativa indica strains. So what else would
medicinal use, right?
Yeah,
right.
The medicinal use is a no-brainer, and what's more dangerous, alcohol or cannabis? I mean, alcohol has killed millions of people. It's harsh on the body. People's livers and kidneys, they just get destroyed, and people's lives are destroyed by alcohol, which is a legal substance. And alcohol probably does not have any medicinal value, but cannabis certainly does. So it's 2013. I can't believe that I'm saying that, but it's time. It's time for this thing to happen quickly. It's taken 80 years to get this far, and it's just unfair that people are persecuted. People like you are living in a state that does not currently have a medicinal program. So it's going to start happening, and it's going to start coming around, and more states are coming on board. Look, the president's backyard, Washington, D.C., right where he lives, they're opening up dispensaries. They're going to be driving.
Right.
They're going to be driving by dispensaries. It's legal in the District of Columbia. It's legal in Maryland.
It is.
It's going to keep. It's getting close to home now. Delaware, absolutely. I went to school in Delaware for 5 years, and Delaware is becoming a very progressive state. I think they're even doing something on same-sex marriage. I think they might have just done something recently on that. So, it's starting to happen. It's slow, and I think we all need patience, but we need people like you to get the word out. That's the important thing, is spreading the word of people that have used this medicinally. So part of your book, Arthritis and Marijuana, How Marijuana Diet and Exercise Can Heal Arthritis by Edward R. Cook, this is getting the word out. So tell people how they can get this nice book. It's an easy read. The print is big. There's a lot of elderly people that need to be reading this. So tell us how people can get your book, Ed, please.
Well, primarily you can go to Amazon Books and search for the title Arthritis and Marijuana. You can also order it from bookstores such as Barnes & Noble. You can special order it through your library. It is in databases and so forth. So if someone's not comfortable with going to Amazon, you can just walk into a bookstore and ask for it, and they'll search for it in their database, and they can special order it for you. So it is out there. It's in the Ingram iPage system, and it is. You can also get it on a Kindle and a Nook. Most e-platform, whether you have a tablet or anything like that, Mac computers and things, you should be able to find it. All you have to search for is the book Arthritis and Marijuana, and it should come up. And
do you have a website to where you sell it directly? Maybe they want a signed copy, like you were nice enough to send me.
I'm using a Facebook page right now. You can go to the Facebook page, Arthritis and Marijuana, and there is a button on that you can order direct from Amazon.
Well, fantastic. I would employ everybody to go directly to Ed if they like, and get their book from his Facebook page, Arthritis and Marijuana. So, Edward R. Cook, thank you very much for calling in today. And as you said earlier, that you are a proponent of using cannabis and marijuana for arthritis, and that you find that smoking it, inhaling it, rolling it is a very sufficient way. And obviously I've done some experiments with using creams on hands and joints and legs and knees and so forth. So I thank you for your effort and for your book and trying to educate people out there, and just keep it rolling, let it roll. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all you do. And as you say, we got to keep trying, keep the fight going, and we'll get things done, and we'll heal people as we can.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ed Cook. We'll have you on again next.
Thank you, Larry.
Bye bye. So that's Ed Cook. His book, Arthritis and Marijuana. Check it out, and let's just keep on rolling.
Hi, this is Steve D'Angelo, and you are listening to Medical Marijuana Radio.
The medical marijuana. The medical marijuana. Radio. Radio. Show. The medical marijuana for you and me.
Well, I want to thank my guest, Edward R. Cook, whose book, Arthritis and Marijuana, is available on Amazon and other bookstores. And, of course, go to his Facebook page, Arthritis and Marijuana. You can give it a like, and you can also order the book directly from him. And if you have any elderly people, patients, friends, relatives that have arthritis, it would be a great gift, especially for Mother's Day tomorrow. Anyway, I want to thank him again, and I want to thank my two radio mentors, both with the initials HS, for giving me inspiration over the years in radio. And we'll be back again next week. Don't forget to fcannabis.com, Wells Fargo, Bishop's Lodge, all for being not really medical marijuana cooperative. Let's put it that way. And there's one more F. You know who you are, and you deserve it. We'll be back next week. Feel well, everybody. Thanks for listening.
The medical marijuana.
Shalom. Shalom.
Feel well, everybody. Good night.